3 days later, Damien woke to the sound of his phone vibrating. No ringtone, only certain calls came this way. Smoke's voice came through, low and tense. Deep. Bone hit back. Shakes is gone. Damien asked, "Gone how?" Smoke replied, "Dead. Corner store parking lot." They left him face down. Damien sat up, adrenaline killing the fog in his brain. The parking lot was taped off. Cops weren't asking questions. Nobody talked when Bone made statements. Shakes had been shot twice in the back, execution style. His blood mixed with spilled soda and broken glass. It wasn't about money, it was about face. Bone was sending Damien a message: "This is my city." Reese's words echoed, "This is how Bone plays, push you till you snap, he wants you to get sloppy, make noise." Cops sniff around, Vega pulls back, "You lose." Damien listened, but his mind was already elsewhere. "We're not doing this on Bone's terms. We hit him where it hurts, quiet, clean, Juno cut in, I know where his drop spot is." Bone's operation ran deep, but his cash runs were exposed. Once a week, Bone's lieutenant Trayvon Trey Miller handled the money pickups. Trey was Bone's right hand. Taking him off the board would be a declaration. But it wasn't just business now. Shakes was family. This was personal. Damien and Smoke watched from a dark alley. Trey's SUV was idling outside a dilapidated warehouse. 2 guards, light security. Bone didn't expect retaliation this fast. Smoke said, gun in hand, "Give me the signal, D." Damien shook his head. Not yet. He wasn't going to let anger rush this. There's a difference between sending a message and starting a war you can't finish. The guards took a smoke break. That was the window. Damien and Smoke moved in. Silent, surgical. Smoke handled the first guard with a brick to the temple. Damien pressed his pistol to the second's neck, whispering, "This ain't your business." The man froze. Wrong place, wrong time. Inside, Trey was counting stacks, oblivious. Damien leveled the gun at him. "You remember Shakes?" Trey turned, startled, but there was no pleading. Just a shrug. That was it. That cold, careless shrug. Damien pulled the trigger. Trey crumpled. A clean shot to the chest. No theatrics, no monologue, just business. But as the echo of the gunshot faded, Damien felt something heavier settle on his chest. It wasn't guilt. Not yet. It was the weight of crossing a line you can't uncross. Smoke lit a blunt, passing it to Damien. First one's always the hardest. Damien didn't respond. His hands were steady, but his mind was loud. Smoke said, "Shakes didn't deserve what he got." Damien replied, "No one does, but they get it anyway." Vega's voice came through. "Bold move. You think you're ready for this life?" Damien answered, "I don't think, I act." Vega replied, "Good, there's more weight coming your way. Be ready." "You did it, didn't you?" Damien showed up at Maya's door, eyes hollow. She opened the door, took one look at him, and knew. Damien didn't answer. He just walked past her, sat on her couch and stared at the floor. Maya sat beside him, silent. There were no words for what had changed. Morning light crept through half-open blinds. Damien sat at Maya's kitchen table, head in his hands. The city was awake now, sirens, engines, voices, but in this apartment it was quiet. You didn't sleep. Maya placed a mug of coffee in front of him, her movements careful, like handling a wounded animal. Didn't plan to. Damien didn't lift his head. "I know what you did, D. I saw it in your eyes last night. You crossed a line." Maya sat across from him, searching his face for something. Remorse, fear, anything human. But Damien's expression was stone. It wasn't a line, it was a wall. Either I broke through it or I let Bone bury me under it. "You think this is about Bone? About blocks and turf? They're pulling you into their game, Damien. You're becoming exactly what you swore you wouldn't. I see you, D. I see the man who held his mother's hand when she OD'd. The man who said he'd never feed this poison back into the streets." She was crying now, but her anger sharpened the tears. "I'm not doing this to stay in. I'm doing this to get out. For us." Damien's throat tightened. That memory was a scar that still burned. His mother's body in the kitchen, lips blue, a needle dangling from her arm. He'd been 14. The system didn't save her. The streets didn't save her. He had to save himself. There's no out, D. You know how this ends. You either die with a crown on your head or in a cage, and neither's what I want. Leave with me. Now. We can go. I got family in Milwaukee. We'll disappear. She reached across the table, grabbing his hand. "I can't." For a moment, Damien let himself picture it. A different life. Clean air, no burners tucked in the waistband, no looking over your shoulder. But the weight was still there. His crew, the money, the blood. You don't just walk away clean, then don't come to me when you're bleeding out in a gutter, because that's where this path leads. Maya's hand recoiled like he'd slapped her. She stood up, wiping her tears roughly. Damien watched her walk into the bedroom, closing the door softly. That was worse than a slam. It was resignation. She ain't wrong, you know. Damien met Smoke outside. Smoke didn't ask questions. He saw Damien's face and knew Maya had given him the ultimatum. I know. Still not leaving though, are you? I don't get to leave, Smoke. Not yet. Damien looked out over the city. Then we build so big they can't knock us down. Smoke clapped his back. But Damien knew better. Everything built in the streets is meant to fall. Vega sat in his office, sifting through ledgers. Damien entered, posture sharp, eyes cold. Vega said, "You're learning." Damien replied, "I'm ready for more." Vega leaned back, considering. Ambition, it'll either crown you or crucify you. Vega smiled, then slid a new folder across the desk. Bigger moves, bigger risks. Damien didn't hesitate this time. He took it. Maya sat alone in her bedroom, staring at the ceiling. Her phone buzzed. A message from Damien. "I'm sorry." She didn't reply. Midnight. The South Side breathed differently after midnight. The streets got quieter, but the silence was never safe. Damien sat behind the wheel of a rented black Escalade, hands steady, mind sharp. Smoke asked, "You good, D?" Next to him, Smoke loaded a pistol, the familiar click-clack filling the cabin. Damien answered, "Never been better." Smoke asked, though he already knew the answer. But Damien's tone wasn't bravado, it was calculation. Tonight wasn't about flexing, it was about survival. Reese chimed in, "Cops are light on 47th tonight, but Bones got ears everywhere. We gotta move smart." In the backseat sat Reese, laptop open, hacking into city traffic cams. Midnight. The South Side breathed differently after midnight. The streets got quieter, but, the silence was never safe. Damien sat behind the wheel of a rented black Escalade, hands steady, mind sharp. Smoke's voice cut through the tension, asking, "You good, D?" Next to him, Smoke loaded a pistol, the familiar click-clack filling the cabin. Damien replied, "Never been better." Smoke asked, though he already knew the answer. But Damien's tone wasn't bravado, it was calculation. Tonight wasn't about flexing, it was about survival. From the back seat, Reese said, "Cops are light on 47th tonight, but Bones got ears everywhere. We gotta move smart." In the back seat sat Reese, laptop open, hacking into city traffic cams. Vega had given Damien his first major shipment, 10 kilos of raw product, fresh in from Miami. The plan was simple on paper: pick up the weight from a stash house, run it across town to a mid-level buyer on the west side. But nothing in this life ever stayed simple. The crew knew Bone wouldn't let Damien's operation expand unchecked. Word on the street was Bone had hired outside hitters, professionals, the kind that didn't wear gang colors. Juno's voice came through, spots cold, too cold. The crew arrived at a boarded-up laundromat that fronted as Vega's stash spot. Juno was already there, crouched behind a dumpster, blade in hand. Damien said, "We're being watched." Inside, the shipment was waiting, neatly packed duffel bags, no guards, no Vega men. Damien's gut twisted. It was too clean. But there was no time to sit and wonder. They loaded the weight into the Escalade and moved out. Bones hitters. Told you this was coming. As they passed under an old rail overpass, the trap snapped shut. A black van screeched sideways, blocking the road ahead. 2 motorcycles flanked them. In the rear view, another car boxed them in. Reese, smoke out the rear. Automatic fire erupted, bullets tearing into the Escalade's bulletproof shell. Damien kept his foot on the gas. Panic was a luxury he couldn't afford. Reese pulled a flare from under his seat, cracked it, and tossed it out the back window. A burst of white smoke swallowed the rear attackers, buying precious seconds. "Juno, left side now!" Juno kicked her door open mid-turn, slicing one of the motorcycle riders clean across the throat as Damien swerved. The body hit the pavement hard, the bike skidding into the wall. "We're boxed, D!" Smoke leaned out the window, squeezing off shots. "Hold on!" Damien spotted a narrow alley to the right, tight but passable. Damien cranked the wheel, tires screaming as the Escalade crashed through stacked pallets, squeezing through the alley. Metal scraped concrete, sparks flew, but they made it. The crew exhaled, but the job wasn't done. The buyer still waited. You were followed? The Escalade limped into a crumbling garage. Inside, the buyer, a Dominican middleman named Cesar, waited, calm as ever. Bone tried. He failed. Vega said you were green. Guess he was wrong. Cesar smirked, impressed. The transaction was quick. Money transferred. The weight offloaded. Damien's first major run, complete. But he knew the message had been sent far beyond the product. You made it messy. Vega sat behind his desk, swirling whiskey. Damien entered, tossing the flash drive of transaction records onto the table. I made it loud. Bone thought I'd fold. I didn't. Good. Bone's getting reckless. That's when men like us take territory. You ready for the next level? Vega nodded. Vega leaned in. Damien's answer was a cold smile. The weight was growing, but so was his hunger. Damien sat alone, counting the night's earnings. His phone buzzed. You're alive. For now. Maya, I'm building something. I want you there when it's done. Damien? Damien stared at the message. He typed, deleted, then typed again. No reply came.